Jeden svět. Mezinárodní filmový festival o lidských právech. 20. března až 21. dubna po celém Česku. Pořádá Člověk v tísni.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Prague Crossroads, to the opening ceremony of the 26th edition of the International Human Rights Film Festival, One World. My name is Linda Bartošová, and it is an honor for me to be here with you and to be your host tonight. I would like to start with a couple of housekeeping remarks. Of course, we would like you to understand everything that is happening, so you can use interpretation using headphones. The channel number 1 is used for Czech interpreting, and the channel number 2 is used for English interpreting. You can pick up your headphones at the entrance if you haven't yet done it.
Czech and English, you should have earphones somewhere nearby you. On the channel 1 you can find Czech language, and on the channel 2 you can find English language. Zároveň je taky...
The opening ceremony is also interpreted into Czech Sign Language, and you can watch live Czech captions at jedensvět.cz/accessibility. You can also follow us via stream thanks to the People in Need organization. Thank you for being with us. This year's edition is perhaps the most intense one, and we will tell you more about this in a moment. For the first time, the festival is presenting not just documentary films, but also fiction films. And we will present 96 feature-length films, 10 immersive projects and 7 short films in 48 towns. Right now, the times are strange because there are conflicts happening across the world, with the most intense conflict happening in Gaza, and we should mention it at the opening of this event, because the atrocities that are happening in Gaza and started with the attacks in October because of Hamas cannot be forgotten. Also, humanitarian crises are going on in Sudan, in Congo and elsewhere. Droughts are happening in many parts of the world, and in 2024, up to 300 million people will need humanitarian aid. This is why it is crucial to make documentary movies to communicate what is happening. Their strength is that they can communicate what is happening in these parts of the world. And now I would like to welcome our keynote speaker, Agnieszka Holland.
Dobry wieczór.
Good evening. Keynote speech that sounds terribly responsible. I do have something prepared, but I'll be rather brief. As Linda mentioned the most salient points, I will just share my personal view, my personal insights with you. In Czech, I need my remarks written in Czech to be grammatically correct, at least. So the text is the following. Hello, thank you for having me. In 1989, I shot a film called Europe, Europe. back then, Europe went through major changes. With the solidarity movement, the Soviet Union started to fall apart, with many walls falling down, with the end of Ceausescu, with the reunification in Germany and the enlargement of the European Union following. In Poland, we had the first free elections. At the same time, however, in China, at the Tiananmen Square, we saw the protests being cracked down heavily, and some started to mention the end of history. Sorry, I got lost in my notes. The film I mentioned was about the Holocaust, my second one about this topic. It featured a real story of a young Jew who fled to Poland and afterwards to the USSR, where he started to be a devout Stalinist. When he was held captive by the Germans, he pretended to be a devout Nazi and integrated the Hitler-Jugend movement. And he indeed became a fanatic Nazi. However, he was a Jew, and as a Jew he was circumvented, and as such he couldn't forget about his origin. That was a story I wanted to depict in a film, so that we don't forget about such murderers and such people. And also because I believe that the Second World War showed the worst of what the humanity is capable of, and that such evil is never away, and that hopes that we were given can always end. I opted for the name Europe because I wanted to express the dual character of Europe. On one hand, Europe is home of democracy, human rights and solidarity. On the other hand, some of the worst crimes against humanity took place on this very continent. Over the last 20 years, I've been feeling that democracy is going through a very deep crisis, and that we are seeing things similar to the 1930s. With one major difference, the internet, which only gave the evil forces very strong tools to propagate evil that can spread evil rapidly across the whole globe. The world today has become incredibly complex. In the modern times, we grew very confused. So sometimes it's tempting to believe those with easy answers to difficult questions, populists and leaders of conspiracy movements. Sometimes we are also too lazy to sacrifice our own comfort in favor of democracy or good things. The role of filmmakers. What is the role of filmmakers in this crisis? We can spark emotions, we can show the beauty of the world, we can transgress borders of our own social bubbles. To me, it seems, however, that filmmakers gave up this role. They escaped this very important role through showing very easy films. Because sometimes it is simply very difficult, also financial-wise, to shoot courageous films. So those courageous films can be found mainly in documentaries. And festivals like One World are incredibly important to spread empathy and similar values. And these are values that will decide about the future of Europe, just like the migration issue and our fear from the unknown, because this fear actually only encloses us in this European stronghold. I believe, or we believe, that building walls can protect us from changes that we're not ready for. When we're choosing between comfort and human rights, equality and respect, these are choices that we'll be faced with more and more frequently. But when I look at the current tendencies in European politics, I am afraid that we will not only lose those important values, but also our comfort. Because monsters are now at the helm of many countries. War is here again, and we can see with it that we can also lose everything, just like those seeking refuge in our countries. And that's one of the topics depicted in my last film, The Green Border. We didn't manage to change the world or the politics of my country with this film, but we might have managed to change the viewpoint of some viewers and wake their consciousness, which I think is the most precious thing. Thank you. Thank you, Agnieszka. Thank you very much. Agnieszka will award the Homo Homini Award, and you can either stay here on stage with us for 10 minutes, or you can have a seat. You will leave us, and then you will rejoin us. So thank you very much, Agnieszka.
As I already said, today's opening ceremony would not be complete without Šimon Pánek, the Director of People in Need, and also I would like to welcome Nadia Ivanova, the Director of the Center for Human Rights and Democracy, People in Need.
Dobrý večer.
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests. It is an honor for us that you are here. Thank you for coming. We are sorry that not all of you are seated, but it seems that the topics that we highlight with our festival necessitate time, and they are very topical right now, because the world is becoming increasingly complex. It is becoming a place that, for many people in our part of the world, goes hand in hand with endeavoring for a better future. And Agnieszka Holland was right to say that we are at a crossroads and we will have to decide about many things in the future. The left and leftist intellectuals are calling for a better world, but the reality right now is that our multipolar world is much less predictable, much less safe for individuals, and much harsher in terms of interpersonal relationships. So we will maybe keep redefining our world for the next decade or two, and for that we need to know it. And the world is dangerous for civilians in many places. Civilians are used as protection, as shields, and they become hostage, used by aggressors. In the past, during wars, we hoped that there would be enough world powers to protect civilians from the risks of wars. But today it seems naive. The world is more cruel than back then in some aspects. So right now we need to understand why it is so. We need to understand the reasons behind it. And for me and for my organization, People in Need, we hope to provide shelter to the festival One World, because for us the festival brings knowledge, and that is crucial. Yesterday we screened the film about Václav Havel, which you will be able to see during the festival as well. And as you all know, Václav Havel said that truth and love must prevail over hatred and lies. And of course, Havel was not a naive person. He knew that this would be a process, that there would not be just one single victory which would last forever. But we need to keep making sure that love and truth will prevail over lies and hatred. Thank you for coming.
Dobrý večer, vážení dámy.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's an honor to be here to award the Homo Homini Prize. The Center for Human Rights and Democracy recognizes with this award the work of journalists uncovering corruption within the authoritarian Azerbaijani regime. The award goes to the collective of Abzas Media. Azerbaijan is ruled since 1993 by the Aliyev family, initially by Haydar, a former KGB member, and after his death in 2003 by his son. The country is rich in oil, and Ilham exploits this to manipulate the international community and suppress fundamental human rights and freedoms without any consequences. His wife serves as his vice president, and his two daughters are in charge of the most lucrative businesses in the country. In 2014, following rigged election, first sanctions were imposed on Russia, and Western countries were forced to look elsewhere for oil. Aliyev back then realized his position was so strong that he began to arrest the most outspoken human rights advocates and journalists. Back then, the West feared for the fate of those and pressured the Azerbaijani government. Almost all those arrested were released after a few years, based on amnesty grounds. Paradoxically, this massive repression gave rise to new projects, just like Abzas Media. Abzas, which in English means paragraph, was founded in 2016 and quickly became one of the leading independent online media outlets in Azerbaijan, focusing on politics, economy and human rights. Abzas's primary goal has always been to investigate corruption at the highest levels. Shortly after it was created, the platform published articles on corruption scandals within public institutions, including the president's family. It's hard to overstate the courage it took. Abzas was the only editorial team working on such cases from within the country. The journalists were threatened, their website was the target of regular cyber attacks, but still they felt that they had to do their work from inside the country. The most severe crackdown came in November 2023, when director Ulvi Hasanli, his deputy Mehmet Kakalov, and editor-in-chief Sevinç Vagifgizi were arrested. Afterwards, Nergis Absalamova and Elnere Gazimova were arrested as well. They were all placed in detention and charged with fabricated crimes. Their detention was extended by another 3 months, and they face up to 8 years behind bars. After them, more activists and journalists were arrested, and repressions continue to this day. Many in the Czech Republic believe that Azerbaijan is a culturally and geographically distant country we have nothing in common with, which is not true. The president's father-in-law owns a hotel in Karlovy Vary. His daughter, a few years back, transferred her villa in Karlovy Vary to a related Azerbaijani politician, and other influential Azerbaijanis invest in our country. So the Czech Republic is one of the many countries in the EU where the corrupt, revealed by Abzas journalists, spend their stolen money without impunity. In a world where wars are becoming more frequent and the world order based on human rights and dignity is increasingly undermined by dictators, it is quite tempting to start applying the principle of the lesser evil. Regimes with small geopolitical ambitions are increasingly tolerated, regardless of the suffering of local people. However, the courage of Abzas journalists clearly shows the global dimension of the crimes of regimes like the Azerbaijani one and calls on us to fight against them. Because the principle of the lesser evil is applied by those who lack the courage to fight. So please, let's not allow these young, talented and courageous people to celebrate their 40th birthdays behind bars. Let's have the courage to openly and relentlessly fight for their freedom. Thank you. I will invite on stage once more Anička Holland to award the prize. And the prize will be received by Leyla Mustafayeva, the current director of Abzas Media.
Could you please just move a little bit into the middle for the photographers? Just a little bit over there. Cenu Homo Homini letos za investigativní zpravodajství.
The Homo Homini Award 2024 goes to Abzas Media from Azerbaijan.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so proud today to receive the Homo Homini Award on behalf of Abzas Media, one of the last independent media outlets struggling to survive amidst a huge government crackdown on freedom of speech in Azerbaijan. Abzas Media, focused mainly on high-level corruption investigations, has done nothing more than exposing abuse of power, wrongdoing in state procurement, and giving voice to oppressed people in Azerbaijan. The country where the absolute power has been consolidated in the hands of president. The country where president appointed his wife as vice president. And the country which is ruled under police regime. Abzas gained popularity after investigations into reconstruction projects in Nagorno-Karabakh. Journalists found out that the companies belonging to the family of President Aliyev and his close associates has lucratively won the bids and earned millions from the state budget. Azerbaijan authorities were hiding these wrongdoings under the propaganda of victory in the country. Following Abzas Media, Toplum TV, a second independent online television station, criticizing the geopolitical and domestic policy of the authorities, was shut down ahead of the UN Climate Change Conference, which Azerbaijan is going to host in November this year. A new opportunity just for President Aliyev to wash his damaged reputation as authoritarian president worldwide. These days, the number of political prisoners in Azerbaijan has reached to 288, of which 20 of them are journalists. Is it surprising? No. Azerbaijan is being led by the same government orchestrating the crackdown on repression on civil society in 2014. The aim of the authorities was to shut down the independent media operating in the country completely. This is why we decided to move Abzas media to exile. There are a number of exiled media outlets in European countries, including the Azerbaijani ones. It reminds me of the historical events of early 20th century when newly emerged independent countries occupied and united under the Soviet Union shortly after they declared their independence. After the Soviet occupation, a number of Azerbaijani media was founded in exile. Azerbaijani media faces the similar fate today as well. Let me tell you just one example to give the broad view of media freedoms in the country. Azerbaijan ranks in the Media Freedom Index of Reporters Without Borders between Pakistan and Afghanistan, the country of Eastern Partnership Program of the European Union, laying geographically in South Caucasus, but on systematic attacks on media just a few steps behind Afghanistan. The authorities haven't launched any single criminal investigations into cases investigated and published by journalists until today. Instead, Azerbaijani law enforcement accuses the detained journalists of money smuggling. It is actually a new strategy designed to project the financial crimes of authorities onto journalists. Authoritarian regimes like Azerbaijan, they keep their assets and fill the money in European countries. Last year, the National Crime Agency of United Kingdom froze the asset worth of $50 million belonging to the family of one parliamentarian from Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan oligarchs have bought huge assets in Czech Republic as well, with illegal money. The Czech Republic should also implement similar mechanisms just to question the source of this money. Just to sum up, difficult and complex circumstances make us to find adequate solutions. Just to make sure that we will always put light on systemic abuses of power and keep corruption under radar in Azerbaijan. Thank you very much for your attention.
Leila Mustafayeva a Agnieszka Holland.
Thank you to Leila Mustafayeva and Agnieszka Holland.
Thank you so much. It's up to you. We can bring it to you over, or you can just take it with yourself. Já to teď moc neodlehčím, protože jsem dostala za
And I will follow with a similarly sad content, because I will read out an open letter written by Ulvi Hassanli, the former director of Abzas Media, that he wrote to his daughter. My beautiful daughter, Suat, I miss you so much. I haven't been able to see you, hug you, or hear your laugh for more than 90 days now. Because me and my friends, Sevinch Vagiv Gizi, Nergis Absalamova, Elnare Gasimova, Mehmet Kekalov, and Hafiz Babali were arrested for our journalistic activities. My dear daughters, you are not only even not 2 years old now. When we were arrested, you weren't even walking yet. But a month ago, my lawyer told me that you started walking. Maybe it's your most beautiful, most cute time. You probably have new expressions and new behaviors since I have last seen you. How I wanted to see and experience these moments. But I say wanted because we were expecting to be arrested almost every day. Because we revealed and published the facts of corruption that stole Azerbaijan's present and future. And so it happened. We were arrested. The reason is that Azerbaijan has become one of the most repressive countries in the world. Independent journalists have to operate under such threats and pressure. My dear daughter, I know you are not old enough to read what I wrote today, but I'm also writing this so that you will forgive me for not being with you now, and that you will not blame me when you understand these events in the future. My beautiful Suat, most of the arrested employees were isolated in the strictest form for 3 months. We were forbidden to meet our loved ones and even hear their voices on the phone. They didn't even allow me to hug you, an 18-month-old child, for 5 seconds. Even now, I can't see or hold you in my arms. The totalitarian Soviet regime has actually been restored in our country that is governed by Soviet thinking. Children are punished for fathers and mothers, and family members are punished because of their children. Our mothers' pension cards, the only source of income, have been blocked, and the bank accounts of our friends and family members have been frozen, and they have been banned from leaving the country. It is the first time in the history of Azerbaijan's independence that a media organization has been subjected to such total repression due to its critical materials and research. Arresting us has not calmed their hearts. They are pressuring and punishing our family members and relatives, regardless of whether they're old or young, women or children, and they're trying to take revenge on us in every possible way. No such restrictions have been applied to those accused of terrorism, mass murder, or the most serious crimes. Every time we hear from the press that this and that defendant has spoken with their relatives, or that they have repeatedly had phone calls with their family members, is not true. In reality, it's as if we were sent to exile or concentration camp. My dear daughter, I could have written this letter to you personally, but I thought it was important for today in history to publish it publicly. In the future, when you read this letter, you'll understand how Azerbaijan has passed through a dark period. That's all for now, daughter. With love, Ylvi, February 2024.
Thanks for the invitation. And a free world for free Azerbaijan, and free Palestine for the rest of the free world, and free all of these friends of mine who are sitting in jail. Hit it. Deyir qardaşım ki, gəl burada döyüş. Deyir Peyğəmbər ki, ən böyük döyüş içindəkidir. Deyir Allah ki, sən tərpən, sənə gəlir məndən, nə gəlir əldən. Bərəkət, sən 2 rəkat, mən sənə 2 qat. Tək ki, sən yaşa, yarat. Kim nə deyir, özü eşidir, hərənin yolu ayrı. Azadlığı sevən ruhuma görmə, çox bayrı. Mən başımda torba, yol ayrıcında ayılıb, evə tək çatdım, ac qarnım, əllər daldan bağlı. Yol oldu, özümü otdan olova atdım. Berlin, bura Bakı, mənə hər gəzdiyim atdım. Mən pasportumu satdım və hər şeydən datdım. Amma dostları və qardaşları hər zaman ucaltdım. Bu nə hal, brat? Bu nə hilə? Aramızda ola bilməz bizim heç bir pillə. Ürəyimiz bir baxma, elə keçirirlər. Keç bu yana, aç qandallarını məftillər. Bu nə hal, brat? Bu nə hilə? Aramızda ola bilməz bizim heç bir pillə. Ürəyimiz bir baxma, elə keçirirlər. Keç bu yana, aç qandallarını məftillər. Həyat döyüş oldu, yaxınlarımı itirdim. Ölmək elə həyatdaykən də ola bilirmiş. Bilirdin, öldüm mən də. Yaşadığım hər gün məzarım Xəzər, mənim başdaşımsa Nargin. Yo, kəllələr, kəllələr, Bakını qoyub getdilər. Buraxma göt şairlər, güllələ bizi, güllələ. Güllələnmiş şairlərə türbələr, türbələr. Haqqımızı sən bilmə, göylər bir də yer bilər. Sinifə qarşı sinif, məhəlləyə qarşı məhəllə. Bağçadan son zəngə kimi keçdi ərzi birdən sənlə. Dinlə, sənə trek yazdım olsan da çöldə. Mənlə sənə zərər gəlməsən özüvü gözlə. Ağzına alıb su hamıl al sussa da. Qan damar gözləri fəyan, baxma ustada. Yandıraram rap dəftərini öz əllərimlə. Dəyəcəksə əgər buna görə sənə şillər. Bu nə hal, brat? Bu nə hilə? Aramızda ola bilməz bizim heç bir pillə. Ürəyimiz bir baxma, ayrı keçirirlər. Keç bu yana açqan dallarını məftillə. Bu nə hal brat, bu nə hilə, aramızda ola bilməz bizim heç bir pillə. Ürəyimiz bir baxma ayrı keçirirlər, keç bu yana açqan dallarını məftillə. Yol aldım, yar aldım, sevdim, sevilib çox aldım. Yolda çıxan təhlükələrdən qorxmadan gözünə baxıb yalan. Qaşıdın illər keçmiş yaram, qan aldı, gözüm qaraldı. Yer etdim, yorulub qaranlıq durdurdu davamı. Adamam, səhərlərim qayğanaq, axşamlarım acılı Adana. Növbəyə durar insanlar, qardaş olsunlar qaqana. Halaldı anama, bizi bax çıxardıb razində 7-dən gör indi haralar. Abala, atama arada baş çək avara. Mehdiyabaddan uzaq düşmə, başdaşlarını sığalla. Məlik Məmmədin nağılında, Koroğlu dastanda. Balaca qardaş igid olub, ayrı düşmə dəstəndən yo. Bu nə hal brat, bu nə hilə, aramızda ola bilməz bizim heç bir pillə. Ürəyimiz bir baxma ayrı keçirirlər, keç bu yana açqan dallarını məftillə. Bu nə hal brat, bu nə hilə, aramızda ola bilməz bizim heç bir pillə. Ürəyimiz bir baxma ayrı keçirirlər, keç bu yana açqan dallarını məftillə. Thank you everybody for the free world.
Slyšeli jste hudební apel azerbajdžanského rapera, novináře, aktivisty Jamala Aliho, který ve své tvorbě, jak jste viděli, tematizuje opresi, svobodu i témata sebeurčení. Jamal Ali, thank you very much, it was amazing, thank you. No a jaký vlastně bude letošní 26. ročník Jednoho světa, to nám už přijde říct jeho ředitel Ondřej Kamenický. Ahoy.
Welcome. Hello. So tell us more. Good evening. Maybe you are curious why people should keep going to the cinema to see movies when we are actually flooded with reports about daily violence happening in many parts of the world, in Palestine, not far from the borders of Europe, in Ukraine and elsewhere. But I think that it is precisely why we should keep going to the movies, because in this way these events become much closer to us. I think that this year the One World Festival is entering a new era. It will take place in 48 towns and cities in the Czech Republic because we feel the necessity to keep people aware of what is happening in the world. In Prague, there will be more than 500 screenings and more than 300 Q&As, which will try to provide answers to some of the questions that we will have after seeing those films. Our festival focuses on human rights, which is why we decided to also include fiction films this year, because they can make our experience of some phenomena even richer. These are events or phenomena of today's volatile reality that are sometimes hard to capture for the documentarists. And it is the case of our opening film, which we will screen tonight, The Terrestrial Verses, directed by Ali Asghari and Alireza Khatami. I think that the directors managed to capture contemporary Iran in a very telling way, because they are showing the everyday oppression which is done to ordinary citizens in the streets who are not necessarily activists or people with strong political convictions. this film portrays how these people are trying to come to terms with illogical constraints imposed by the Iranian regime. And I think that it is a very well chosen opening film because it is very powerful. So I hope that your experience will be powerful and that you will come to see more films during our festival. I would also like to express my deepest gratitude to our viewers, including those who are watching us online. Thank you for your support. Thank you that you are not indifferent to human rights. Thank you. This was Ondřej Kameňský, the director of the festival. Thank you.
And that's the end of the moderated part of this evening. We want to thank the Minister of Culture, the Abacus Foundation, the Czech Film Fund, the City of Prague and Creative Europe Media Program. Many thanks go to the general media partner, Czech Television, and the main media partner, Czech Radio. On my behalf, I want to express our gratitude to the entire team and our volunteers that work either for free or for very little. So a round of applause for them, please, because if it weren't for them, this festival wouldn't exist. Thank you also to our viewers online and on-site. Thank you for seeing our films, be it in Prague or in the remaining 47 towns and cities. Just one last remark. You can enjoy this film with an audio description. You can pick up your headphones at the entrance and there will be English subtitles and Czech descriptive subtitles. Enjoy this film and the other ones. Enjoy the evening. Thank you.